If you compressed the entire history of Earth into a single calendar year, humans would appear at 11:37 p.m. on December 31st. Everything else, every creature, every catastrophe, every mass extinction, every ocean that formed and dried and formed again, happened in the 11 months, 30 days, 23 hours, and 37 minutes before us. We think of ourselves as the story. We are the last sentence. Earth formed 4.5 billion years ago, a violent collision of rock and gas and ice, orbiting a young star in an unremarkable corner of the Milky Way. For the first 500 million years, nothing lived here. The surface was molten. Asteroids rained down continuously. The atmosphere was toxic. Methane, ammonia, carbon dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, no oxygen, no ozone layer to block ultraviolet radiation. It was, by every measure, a dead world. And then, something happened. Pause. Around 3.8 billion years ago, in circumstances we still do not fully understand, chemistry became biology. A molecule learned to copy itself. Not a cell, not an organism, just a single self-replicating molecule, almost certainly a form of RNA, that could make imperfect copies of itself in some warm, chemical-rich environment. Imperfect copies matter, because imperfect copies compete. Some copies were slightly better at replicating than others. Those proliferated. The others faded. Evolution had begun, before there were cells, before there were genes, before there was anything we would recognize as alive. Pause. For the next 2 billion years, nearly half the entire history of Earth, life consisted entirely of single-celled organisms. 2 billion years of bacteria. No eyes, no mouths, no movement toward or away from anything. Just chemistry, endlessly repeating, endlessly varying, endlessly competing for resources in the primordial ocean. But during those 2 billion years, something extraordinary was quietly happening. Cyanobacteria, microscopic photosynthetic organisms, were producing a waste product as they captured sunlight. That waste product was oxygen. Around 2.4 billion years ago, oxygen began accumulating in the atmosphere for the first time. We call this the Great Oxidation event. For most life on Earth at the time, it was a catastrophe. Oxygen is chemically reactive. It destroys organic molecules. For organisms that had evolved in an oxygen-free world, this new gas was poison. The Great Oxidation event killed the vast majority of life on Earth. It was the first mass extinction, caused not by an asteroid, not by a volcano, but by life itself, accidentally poisoning its own environment. But some organisms survived, and some of them learned to use oxygen rather than be destroyed by it. Aerobic respiration, the process your cells use right now to convert food into energy, is roughly 16 times more efficient than the anaerobic processes that came before it. Oxygen didn't just allow new life to exist, it supercharged it. Around 1.5 billion years ago, another extraordinary event occurred. One bacterium was absorbed by another, and instead of being digested, it survived inside its host. It became a permanent resident, a symbiont. That ancient captured bacterium is the ancestor of every mitochondrion in every cell in your body right now. The power source of your cells was once a free-living organism that got swallowed and never left. For another billion years, life remained mostly microscopic. Single cells, simple colonies. The world was quiet in a way that is almost impossible to imagine. No sound, no movement on land. The oceans full of invisible life, the continents bare rock, the sky a pale oxygen-tinged haze. Then, around 600 million years ago, something shifted. Multicellular life exploded. The Cambrian Explosion, beginning roughly 541 million years ago, is one of the most dramatic events in the history of life. In what is, geologically speaking, the blink of an eye, perhaps 20 million years, almost every major body plan that exists in animals today appeared for the first time. Eyes, legs, shells, mouths, nervous systems, predator and prey. Before the Cambrian, if you looked into the ocean, you would see almost nothing. After it, you would see a world teeming with creatures, strange alien creatures unlike anything alive today, but recognizably animal. The arms race between predator and prey had begun, and it has never stopped. Life moved onto land around 475 million years ago. First plants, then arthropods, then around 375 million years ago, the first vertebrates to drag themselves out of the water. Tiktaalik, a fish with proto-limbs, an animal caught in transition between two worlds, fossilized in the act of becoming something new. Those limbs became legs. Those legs carried animals across continents. And 230 million years ago, one group of those animals became dominant in a way nothing had before. The dinosaurs. For 165 million years, non-avian dinosaurs ruled the Earth. To put that in perspective, the time between the first dinosaur and the last is more than 3 times longer than the time between the last dinosaur and us. They were not slow, lumbering failures waiting to be replaced. They were extraordinarily successful, diverse, adaptable, some of them almost certainly warm-blooded, many of them feathered. They would almost certainly still be here today, if not for what happened 66 million years ago. A rock approximately 10 kilometers wide, traveling at roughly 20 kilometers per second, struck what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The impact released energy equivalent to 1 billion nuclear bombs. The immediate destruction was total for thousands of kilometers. Forests ignited globally from re-entering debris. A tsunami hundreds of meters high swept coastlines around the world. Then the real killer arrived. Dust and sulfur aerosols blocked sunlight for years. Temperatures plummeted. Plants died. The food chain collapsed from the bottom up. 76% of all species on Earth went extinct, including every non-avian dinosaur. But not everything died. Small mammals, warm-blooded, fur-covered, capable of burrowing underground and surviving on seeds and insects, made it through. For 165 million years, these creatures had lived in the shadow of the dinosaurs, small, nocturnal hiding, their potential constrained by the dominance of creatures far larger than themselves. The asteroid didn't just kill the dinosaurs, it set us free. In the 66 million years that followed, mammals diversified explosively to fill every ecological niche the dinosaurs had vacated. Whales returned to the sea. Bats took to the air. Elephants grew enormous. Horses evolved to run across open grasslands. And in Africa, around 6 million years ago, one lineage of primate began to walk upright. Our ancestors, not yet human, but becoming. For 6 million years, our lineage evolved. Brain size increased. Tools appeared. Fire was controlled. Language emerged. And then, roughly 300,000 years ago, anatomically modern humans appeared for the first time. We had arrived. At 11:37 p.m. on December 31st, after 4.5 billion years of preparation, here is what strikes me most about this story. We were not inevitable. At every step, contingency played a role. If the asteroid had missed by a few minutes, striking ocean rather than the sulfur-rich rocks of the Yucatan, the dust cloud would have been far smaller. The dinosaurs might have survived. Mammals might still be small, nocturnal creatures hiding in burrows. If the Great Oxidation event had unfolded differently, complex life might never have emerged at all. If any of dozens of mass extinctions had been slightly more severe, the branch of the tree of life that leads to us would have been pruned forever. We exist because of an almost incomprehensible series of accidents, catastrophes, and unlikely survivals. Every extinction that came before us cleared the path we walked. Every creature that died in the dark, before anything watched or wondered or remembered, made us possible. We are not the point of the story, but we are the only part of the story that knows it exists. And that awareness, that capacity to look back across 4.5 billion years and ask what came before, may be the most extraordinary thing that has ever happened on this planet. Not despite everything that came before us, because of it.